welcome, friends. Your boy Tony Ortiz here, and I'm back with a passion project that I've been wanting to make for quite a few months now. But I've just now got around to it. It's an exciting time to make it. That's why we're doing it now. I want to talk to you about the Hero's Journey Everquest emulated server. And those might be a bunch of words you're not familiar with. It really all depends on where you're coming from, what era of gaming you grew up in. But I want to do this quick little primer before I get to the real meat of what I want to talk about, which is the classes available and the combinations you can make. And right there on the screen, you're probably seeing something very interesting when you see the Bard Rogue Magician up there on my main character. And you're wondering, what is... That sounds like three different classes. Just you wait. So first, I just wanted to make something so that when I make the video about classes that I actually want to make, I can refer back to something on my own channel, which will help people that are new to the game or maybe just interested in dipping their toe in the waters of the game have an idea of what's going on with the actual game, where it came from, what's happening, what is this game, where is it from. I was born in, 2000, like, where is this from? So that's what I want to talk to you real quickly about. I know a lot of people out there don't like jumping onto Google and doing a ton of research, especially with AI now. You're just going to get a bunch of answers. Half the time the AI is wrong, half the time the sources are not reliable. So I wanted to give you something that will help you understand what Everquest is, what Everquest emulation servers are, where the current state of the game is at right now, and why this is a great option for you to play, especially if you are pressed for time or you don't have like 75 friends that are all willing to form a guild and get content done, as most MMOs have the reputation of needing. So what is Everquest? First of all, Everquest was the pinnacle of the MMORPG genre. It was the modern godfather of three-dimensional MMORPGs. Some MMORPGs, in theory, existed before it. Ultima Online comes to mind. There's some AD&D, Neverwinter Nights type things that you can all point back to. RuneScape as well. However, EverQuest was the first game to do it in 3 dimensions, where you can actually move around, see behind your character, to the sides, and outside of the isometric view from either a first person or a third person view, in 3 dimensions. And it was so popular and it was so ahead of its time that it actually broke all sorts of records in terms of people connecting to the same client location, trying to connect to the servers and play with each other online. And this all happened in 1999 of all years. So this is about 5 years before the release of World of Warcraft, if you're familiar with that cultural phenomenon. So this is really the game that kicked it off, that showed us what could be possible. And it's still also very heavily inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, like many of those early games were. Ultima, and RuneScape and so on. You have your Baldur's Gate 2s and 1s. So these amazing games that are all based on these early D&D rule sets, or, like this early concept of tabletop RPG, trying to bring it to life in the video game world, right? So even Final Fantasy 1 for Nintendo is very, very based on the Dungeons and Dragons formula. That was the only Final Fantasy that had spells cast per day and things like that, right? So this game really broke a lot of ground. It was also, though, from that era where your hand was not held. It was very punishing. Dying lost you experience, all sorts of stuff like that. However, we're going to talk about how it exists in the current day, where a lot of that stuff is no longer popular. So therefore, it's kind of been adjusted. And what you're going to find with what I'm talking about and this emulated server that I will be talking about is that a lot of us have experienced this game throughout its entire lifespan. We've really fallen in love with it. We love going back to it. And a lot of the effort has been put in by the people maintaining this service to fix the quality of life issues that maybe we didn't understand were important in 99, 2000, 2001, and so on, and bring that forward into the modern day. So don't worry. None of those really inconvenient things are going to hurt you and waste your time. What's best about this format of playing this game is that it really does respect your time, and it tries to bridge the gap and build the experience around you, or a friend or two, depending on who you have available to play with you. And there's still so much that you can do in the game even if you're by yourself, which is kind of like the biggest turnoff for MMOs, right? So the main thing when you talk to people about games and MMOs is that they understand that MMO, the first M means massively, and that requires tons of people to be online. It requires you to set aside time. It requires you to do all these things, coordinate with all these people, and that's just very difficult. When you're 18 and you have a part-time job, or maybe you're in college, or you're in trade school, or you're just working, you can dedicate 20 hours of your life to playing games, right? But as you grow older and you form relationships and you make commitments and you have less time, you just can't do that anymore. So what's great about the hero's journey is that it really makes the experience kind of up to you. If you want to experience it with all these people and doing things together, you absolutely can do all those things. But if you are by yourself, or maybe have one friend or two friends that want to experience all the stuff that this game has um, offered us over the years, you can absolutely make that happen, and you can make it happen in any kind of play style that you really want to play. And that's the big thing we're going to touch on. So EverQuest has existed since then. I mentioned 1999. It is still going strong today. 25 years of so many. I think there's 19 or 20 expansions. It's just so robust, and it just keeps going. It keeps chugging along. It had a sequel called EverQuest 2, which still does exist. You can still go and play that as well. But it really never pulled the focus away from EverQuest 1 the way that they thought it would. You may have heard that World of Warcraft developer Blizzard was working on a sequel to that game, and they eventually just said, forget it. Let's just keep working on the original game. And there's a reason that happens. I mean, you just can't beat 20 years of world and story and all these systems and stuff that you've built. It's very hard to, get loyal customers to go ahead and buy the new product when they have to give up all the stuff they worked on and paid for all these years, right? So EverQuest 1 is still alive today. You can go and play it right now. You can go and play it for free, and you can go play it for a paid option, like many MMOs have the option to do. And in and of itself, it is very traditional. You walk into the experience, you pick one class, you pick one race, you pick the deity you worship, then it sends you into tutorial mode. You go through that, you get into the game, you start playing. However, alongside EverQuest has always existed this emulated server environment from about the mid to early 2000s era and forward. And the reason for that is when you invent a game or a game system, a lot of people have their favorite versions of that system. We can look at Dungeons and Dragons. We can look at any other tabletop game out there, whether it's Shadowrun, Vampire, GURPS, or all these other interesting systems. Many of the Marvel and DC universes have gotten role-playing systems, right? We look at all the games that are out there. We can look at EverQuest. We can look at World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 11, 14, Dark Age of Camelot, Warhammer Online, and Star Wars, The Old Republic, and so on. And people will have favorite eras from those games. People have favorite eras of those systems. There's still people that get together today and play Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition. There's still people that get together today and play Dungeons and Dragons Third Edition. There's still people that get together and absolutely love World of Warcraft in its base game state, which is why the progression servers that World of Warcraft launched years ago were so popular. People wanted to go back and relive that nostalgia, relive that experience that they had in 2004, 5, 6, and 7, right? So, along with that line of nostalgia, the line of thought, and the enjoyment of the old and making it new again, the emulator community has always existed since about 5 or 6 years into the existence of EverQuest. And you have to give it up to Sony and Tencent and then later Daybreak Games for never really encroaching on the emulator community and trying to shut them down or anything like that. They really had a better sense, and a lot of companies don't have the sense to understand that more eyes on the game, even if they're not playing on the official servers, is better public relations than just shutting everybody down and having no fun mode. LOL, go buy our product for $80 or don't play anything, right? And that's where Nintendo gets a lot of flack. That's where a lot of other companies get a lot of flack. So first of all, I just want to say hats off to them. Letting people literally test drive new ideas for them, focus group it, focus test it for them, and then all of a sudden, hey, that's a really good idea. People in the emulator community love it. Let's put it in our game. Let's add it to the live server and get people to play in both places. So it's really one of those things that has seen a lot of success in recent years in the 2020s, especially with all of us stuck inside in the pandemic. We really had a lot of extra time to not only play some games, but to express our opinions and throw a lot of things out there and say, hey, we could use this, we could use that. I love this old game. I would love to go back and play it. You've had a lot of old MMOs come out of the woodwork with emulated servers and do really well. Warhammer, City of Heroes, Everquest especially. We've had a lot of success. World of Warcraft's classic servers have done really well. So people out there who grew up with this stuff, that really love it, want to go back and experience it again. They want their children to experience it. They want their younger cousins to experience it, their nieces and nephews, and so on, right? So there's a market for this stuff. So if you're here and you don't even know what EverQuest is, the reason I'm doing this is to just, again, explain to you what EverQuest is. So it is an older game. You are going to log in, and the controls are going to be a little more stiff and a little less intuitive than you would think. The UI is going to be a little old and outdated, but you can go ahead and update that with mods people have made over the years if you like. There's a lot of things you can do, but it is going to be a more old school feel RPG. Okay, you're going to have an auto attack. You're going to have spells that cost mana. You're going to have recast timers. You're going to have, cast timers. There's going to be all these old school things that you're going to have to deal with. And, there's not a lot of hand holding in the game, but there is a robust community that is always wanting to help people out. That's just the way it is. And this emulator community has had a lot of different ideas about how the old game, or even like the middle era of history of the game, should be played, right? So there's some servers out there that say vanilla only, no expansions, that's it. There's some servers out there that say, hey, there was a golden age of this game. It was this base game plus the first 2 expansions, and then we're out of here. Then there was another group of people that thought, okay, the first 2 expansions were awesome. The third one was but the fourth one was incredible. That was peak of this game. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch a server that's open to all of that stuff. And then there are servers that take the idea of the progression model. Think of the way that World of Warcraft Classic works today. So they launch the game in the base game state. After a certain amount of time, the next set of content unlocks, it's patched in, and all of you that are playing are ready. You can go attack the new stuff, and you can have fun and experience it just like it was when it was first released, but maybe not with as long of a wait. You might not have to wait 2 years for an expansion to drop of the content of the server that you're playing on, right? You might only have to wait a month or 2 months, and then, with accelerated experience gains and leveling and farming of items and stuff that you want, that might open the door for things to be dropped a little bit sooner. Okay, so the emulator community has all these different servers out there, and different people running them, and different ideas on how to play the game, and so on. That's how we get to where we are today. And again, the emulator community, very, very strong. It's been supported. It's never been hindered, for the most part, by the company that makes this game. And, that's allowed it to grow and flourish and thrive. And I played on several emulated servers back in the day. I played on Live EverQuest in several different eras. I played on launch. I played for the first several expansions. I played a little bit longer than most of my friends. I was hanging on still, even when World of Warcraft came out. And then I eventually, when I was done with World of Warcraft, I came back to EverQuest in the late 2000 aughts, so like about 08 to 2010 or so, and I played a few years in that era as well. And now I'm playing again back where we all started. So those are my credentials a little bit for you. And I played the game in a few different eras, and I've enjoyed it for the most part in all of them. The emulated servers and the people who run them, again, have very conflicting ideas on how things should be run. And so this particular server is the hero's journey. That's what we said at the top of the video. And what these people have decided to do is they decided to try to streamline the process to not only allow that massively multiplayer experience, but to also allow a single, or like It Takes Two style dual or duo player experience, to be able to go into the game and create all these memories and experience all this content and relive all this stuff by yourself, with one other friend, maybe with 2 other friends, and have a great time doing it. And you can do all of that on your own time, in your own way. You can create an instance of places so that all the stuff is ready that you need to attack and spawn. You don't have to wait 5 days for it to spawn in. All sorts of cool ideas to make the game accessible and completable for everyone. Whoever wants to get in and try to do all the stuff can do all the stuff. And I believe their first attempt was to kind of like, hey, one of the easiest ways we can actually balance the game around having a lot less people playing is to give people access to two classes at the same time. And I believe that idea is sort of from the root of some emulated servers allow people to play multiple characters at the same time. Now, normally to do this on the actual game, you'd have to have multiple accounts, multiple subscriptions paid for. You'd have to have the game running in two different screens, or you might even need more than one computer. You could have several virtual machines running the game, which is easier with a game older like this. It isn't as graphic intensive. You can run virtual machines and run multiple instances of the game. But that also requires one person to be clicking around between all these windows and casting spells and using abilities and maneuvering around and not get hit by the enemy's attacks and so on. And that's just a very big overload, and as popular as some of those servers are, some I think allow you to run up to 24 characters at the same time. It just doesn't fulfill what a lot of us are looking for the traditional MMO experience, right? So eventually, I believe they settled on the idea that if you give the access to each player to have any of the three of the multiple classes in this game, there's 16 options. So there's a lot of combinations. I believe it's 560 different possible class combinations. That is enough to where all we have to do is to go into the actual game itself. Maybe we adjust a few numbers here and there. We add in some of the things that the other emulated servers have accomplished over the years, and we create a unique and interesting experience that people can experience by themselves with one friend, with two friends, and go from there. So this server launched in, I believe it was in late October, early November of 2024. And since then, it has broken all sorts of records for concurrent player count, for active users, and just the activity on the Discord and on their website is just through the roof. And it's because whether people who missed EverQuest the first time around or are coming back the second time or third or fourth time around, like myself, you come back into the game, you have a great time. There's a bunch of people you can chat with, but if you are by yourself, if you have a nighttime job and you don't have as many friends available, or your friends, you can get through almost everything in the game on your own, which is a completely unique experience for an MMO, right? It's almost like Star Wars: The Old Republic and the single-player quests that they had, and the hero's journey. I think is kind of like an idea of how to say you can be the hero and go on and experience the whole story on your own, and you can get to the end, and you can have the resolution of the story and enjoy all the stuff in between. So yeah, it's actually brilliantly executed. I have a lot of fun. Even the things I don't like and I disagree with design-wise, I totally understand why they are the way they are, and it makes sense from a design perspective. You have to take a step back as a player and realize that there are players that want different things out of the game than you, and there needs to be catered to as well. And yeah, it's a great experience, and it's of course 100% free to play and experience. So one of the benefits of having an emulated server that's run by other people that don't run the corporate server is that with licensing and the way that things work, oftentimes they just literally cannot charge you money to play, right? So typically when somebody runs an MMO emulation server or whatever, they may have a license from the company in rare circumstances. Like I believe one of the City of Heroes emulated servers, they actually negotiated a licensing fee with NCSoft, the company that owns the rights to the game, and they operate, on normal. But it's also still free to play. But emulated servers are almost always surviving on donations. So if they do a great job, people in the community appreciate it. They send a little money over and say, "Hey, thanks for doing this. We really love that somebody has taken up this." Mission to like archive this stuff, to improve on it, to give it away to everyone, knowing that they may not be paid anything or make any money at all. And it's a huge service, and people really respond well to that kind of thing. So you can fire up the game right now. You can play all the way through to the end. You can give literally 0 cents, $0 to the people who have set all this up and monitor it and administrate it and all that, and you will not be treated any differently than anyone else who plays, right? So they have a really great system set up in that way. And it's not as hard to set up as you think. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than just buying a game on Steam, downloading it, and installing it and playing. But the Discord does a really good job of explaining to you exactly what to do. People have been working on streamlining the installation process for many months now, and we're about 6 months into the life of the game, and things are going really well. And I think that the community has done an amazing job of creating fixes for some people that are crashing here, having problems there. That being said, are you going to have some issues running a 25-year-old game on your Windows 10 or 11 machine, or on Apple Parallels, or whatever crazy stuff you're trying to do? Sure, but it's one of those things where if you get booted, you log back in and you go about your business. So that's what EverQuest is. It's an old school MMORPG. It's near and dear to a lot of our hearts. It's a nostalgic game, and we absolutely encourage you to check it out. Dive right on in. I mean, if you go and check out the viewership on Twitch, if you go and check out YouTube, you'll see right away the stuff's exploding. You can go check out the website. I'll have links in the description, of course, for you to check out those websites and join the Discord and participate. And even if this is all super overwhelming for you, don't worry. The reason I make this video is because I want it to be a primer for the next one that I really want to talk about, which is all the different classes in the game, and we'll go more in depth there. And why? The last thing I want to talk about is why am I doing this now? Why am I doing this like the day it came out? Well, when it came out, I had a friend who said, like, hey, let's check this out. Let's go play it. I started playing it. I was having a really good time. But you never really quite know like how things are going to go until you kind of settle in and you really see the vision of the developers and the people taking care of everything. The community leaders and managers and all that. And I think now that it's been several months, and now that we're at the amount of content to where the game is really complete, I feel like even if they stopped the game right where it's at right now and didn't add any other expansions, they've really covered the golden age of EverQuest. So EverQuest, from base game to the first expansion, Runes of Kunar, to the second expansion, Scars of Elios, to the third expansion, Shadows of Lucan, to the fourth expansion, the Plains of Power. That was the real prime of the game, and these are all content drops that have existed before World of Warcraft was released. All right, so this is like a nice like 4-year, 5-year span of just really good content, really great, groundbreaking game design. There's mistakes made, but there's a lot of other really like forever imitated and never duplicated type of things that exist in the game. So they've done a great job. I feel confident in recommending it to everybody I know, and not just old friends that used to play EverQuest, especially now, because I think they've done a really good job of handling everything, of listening to the community when they need to, and telling the community to chill, and there's a lot more things in play than you understand, and we really feel like this is the way we should be going with this for the long-term health of the server. I really like the measured response, and also the blessing of a lot of the former designers who really were around in the companies that made these expansions and these sets of content when they were first released. When those people come out and really endorse this kind of product, you really can be sure that it's in good hands. And so now I feel like this is kind of like the time, especially with Plains of Power, the last expansion. It really does appeal to more of a 2 to 3 person experience as opposed to a single player solo experience. And I really think that like now is the time for the growth to really happen and accelerate at an even higher level than it already is. And that's why I'm excited to bring more people into the fold. Okay, so there you go. That's that. Now, what makes the hero's journey different from the base game of EverQuest, besides that little 3-class thing that I mentioned? Well, let's again really quickly just retouch on that. You can see I have 3 different classes picked here. How this works is when you create a character, you will pick the first class that you want out of all the classes that are available. Classes are racially locked in this game, so if you go to create a new character, you will see that when you pick a class or a race over here on the left, it will change what classes are available. You can see I can't select Magician or Enchanter if I want to be a Halfling. I have to select Paladin or Ranger or Rogue or so on. Now, what's great about the 3-class blend is that this racial limitation does not apply after you create your character. So what you can do is, if you have an idea in your head of what 3 classes you want to play already, You can go ahead and pick whatever race you want. As long as your race that you want to play is one of those 3 classes available, you can go ahead and pick that class. You will immediately be able to teleport yourself to the main commerce hub of the game, and then add your extra 2 classes right away, right after that. So don't worry about any of the cosmetic stuff and picking the particular race you want to play. You will be able to make that work with your 3 classes that you've decided to use. Now, um, how does the experience work? Do I split experience between all my 3 classes? Do I have to pick which one to level up while I'm doing the same? A lot of people who played old school Dungeons and Dragons may um, think about the multi-class, dual class system and all that. No worries here. It's very simplified. What happens in this game is you pick all 3 classes. Even if you forget to pick the 3rd class or the 2nd class and you gain a few levels, once you go back to your trainer and you add that class to your build, per se, you will just instantly be that level, and you level up everything all at the same time. So if I pick my 3 classes right away at level 1 and I level up to level 2, I will be level 2 of all 3 combined. Now, do I get the stat gains for every single class? No, I don't do that. That's all kind of like uniformed up, but I get all the abilities and all the spells and all the advantages of all of the different classes that I have at the same time. So I'm effectively playing 3 characters at the same time, but I'm controlling 1 character, which is way more easy to wrap your head around as a player than controlling 3 separate characters on 3 different instances of the game and clicking in between all at the same time. So it's a really intuitive and simplified way to play, right? And then other than that, what else is going on? What's up? What else has changed from the base game? Well, a lot of, like I mentioned, quality of life stuff has been updated. A lot of central hub stuff has been moved into a location. There are NPCs dedicated to selling you a lot of common materials that you may need early on. If you want a trade skill, there's an NPC that allows you to teleport yourself between all the starting cities so you don't have to spend hours running across the world. There are all sorts of points in the game where you can unlock transport to those locations if you don't have a class that has teleport spells that they can cast. There are all sorts of little optimizations that are existing that help you easily dive in. There's even a small quest that you can follow right at the beginning to get you started, to kind of explain everything and how things go. And what you may be also wondering, especially if you have experience in the progression style of a server, is how do I go from one set of content to the next set of content? It works very similar to all the other games out there. World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, they kind of all sort of operate on this system. Everquest itself has what's called progression servers, where what you do is you start in the old world, you complete a set of content. Once you complete it, you get flagged to be able to go into the next set of content, and then you go through that stuff and you get flagged and go into the next set of content from there. And this server operates exactly like that. So you'll start off in the old world. There'll be 2 old world bosses that you'll want to defeat, whether you're on your own, or you have help, or whatever. Or there's another path which lets you find and complete exploration style quests and turn in items from exploration to an NPC in the main commerce hub that will then flag you for the next set of content. And you get a real nice sense of progression, which is why these things are called progression servers. As you play along, you progress through the content in the order it was chronologically released, and you get upgrades and you get access to new stuff each time you go through these sets of content. You experience it just like it would have been experienced if you were there playing live when it was originally released. So that's pretty much it. Those are the basics. There's a lot of more nuance and subtle context that can be added as well. But I just wanted to cover the basics in a quick under 30-minute kind of primer for you. And I think we've done that. Appreciate everybody for coming and checking this out. Can't wait to see you in game. Hit me up. As always, I stream this stuff every Tuesday night on Twitch. There'll be a link for that as well below. And I look forward to seeing you in the Hero's Journey Everquest emulated server and on the Discord as well. Check out my next video in this series, which is going to help you understand what is going on with all these classes over here. There's 16 different classes. There's so many classes. I've got to pick 3. What's good with this? What's good with that? I don't know. We're going to cover that in the next episode. We'll see you then. Tony Ortiz signing off. Thank you so much.